knowledge.
I thought you came prepped, like had a whole Bible with you.
Okay, well, what is your biggest? What do you think is the worst scene in the manga, in the chapter?
Scene? I just generally don't like it. Like, there's a lot of things that I don't like about it. Like, the main thing I don't like about the chapter is the idea that, like, a lot of themes were left, like, without closure. A lot of themes that were set up. And I know these themes exist within the story because these themes have been talked about by Isayama directly in interviews, in guidebooks, throughout the entire series, etc.
Yeah, okay, I agree. The chapter was really short. It could have been longer. Like
it's not even that. It's not about the length. I'm talking about, like, there are so many themes brought up within Attack on Titan generally, but the chapter just didn't address them.
The Historia baby, who's the daddy?
Yeah, do you know what I mean when I bring up, like, themes and narratives? Well, that's more of a narrative point, the whole, like, baby thing, but it does link into thematics as well. So the theme is like...
Can you give me an example?
So, like, a theme would be an idea or notion within a series, right? So, like, for example, the theme of predeterminism, or theme of, like, surpassing the father, etc. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Those kind of themes. Well, I think there was a lot of themes like Isayama, like, talked about, but there was hardly any closure on any of them. I can't think of a single theme with closure.
I think I can agree with that.
Okay, that was my main contention. Maybe, like, you want to talk about Eren and his character. A lot of people seem to have an issue there, because I think his character...
So, I personally never believed that this was the real Eren, what we got to see after the time skip. I always thought that he was putting up an act.
No, I completely disagree. I think his character's regressed.
And punched Armin, that was
oh no, I agree that was, like, fake, but I don't agree that his, like, motivation or his character development up to that point was, like, fake. I think even in season 3, right, we see him start to develop into this kind of person, and it's because of his resolve, right? So in the Uprising arc, we learned that, like, he thought he was special right before it. Like, he's a philosophy, right? The whole, like, I was born into this world, therefore I am special was challenged. And I feel like it definitely affected his character. In fact, he stated that it affected his character, right? In the guidebooks.
His mind messed up because he saw himself, when he was a child, killing millions of people. So that he's technically a psychopath, a crazy man.
I would say that, like, his head was definitely affected, and it might have affected his decisions, but we're not really talking about that. We're mainly talking about his character, and I believe his character regressed in that final chapter.
Way?
In the final chapter, sorry. I think
because when he cried that he wanted to be with Mikasa, right?
Yeah, but it's not only that, right? It's more than just that. It was like the whole idea that he believed that, like, everybody hated him, and that, like, he thought there's no way out for him now, and that he wanted to die.
But, I have the chapter open. He doesn't say that everyone hates him.
What does he say exactly again? Go on, repeat it, please.
Like, he don't think he will ever be forgiven.
That's it. It's something like that. Yeah. But I do think it's pretty much the exact same thing. What I'm trying to get at. It's a regression of his character.
Well, I just think that he's a really he's not a bad person. He's a good person, but he has done things that can't be forgiven.
Oh, I don't know about that. Like, I think he is pretty bad, but, like, now we're just talking about if his character is good or not. As in, like, if he's written as a good character. I don't think anybody can justify him. I don't think anybody can justify his ethics at this point. Unless you want to debate that.
The exact problem you say.
We can debate that.
He's acting that way.
Do you want to debate if he's a good person or not?
No, if he's a good written character.
Okay, that's all you want to debate. That's fine. That's why I came to debate. Okay, so what are your contentions with my video?
I think it's fair, right? Because he has done things to save his people and to give the world a new chance.
I don't think he's given the world that great of a chance, or given his people that great of a chance. Do you want me to explain why?
Yeah, I've watched the video and I've written something down.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read it.
Go on.
So something like an open ending was always possible, I think.
I don't mind the open ending, because the contentions I have is that, like, we're talking about Eren's character because I don't think you really care about the thematic stuff, right? I think you agreed, because none of the themes were addressed. That wasn't good writing, but we can talk about Eren's character.
Paradise is going to survive.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that if you want.
Because you're saying that there's a 50 years gap between the technology of the
I made several. Okay, that was one of several points. I kind of used them together to create a preponderance of evidence.
But you know that 80% of humanity is wiped out.
Yes, and so how many is left?
I don't know if the 20% has even that technology.
Okay. How many do you think? Okay, wait, listen. 20%, right? Do you know how much 20% of the world's population is?
It depends on the year, right?
If you want, but we can lowball. We can say, you know, just for the sake of our argument, right? I'm gonna lowball because it's probably a lot more than this, right? But let's say worldwide there's 1 billion people. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, sure.
Because that's a massive global. There should be more than that. But okay, we can say 1 billion people.
Yeah, someone took numbers out of 1900, the year 90.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more than 1 billion people then.
Yeah, sure.
But we're just gonna lowball, that's fine. 20% of 1 billion is 200 million. So how many people do you think there are on the island? Just asking.
I think it's similar to...
Do you think there's more than 1 million people on the island?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's more than 1 million people on the island? Wait, did I just say that?
Something
Sorry.
around that. I mean, that's something hard because technically Isama had to say that, had to tell us that.
Okay,
No, for certain.
I think we can both agree there's no more than 2 million people on the island. Just basing it off like how many people there are like not in the walls. If you actually measure the distance of the walls, right, and look at the houses and stuff, I think you can roughly give an estimate of how many people there are, and there's no more than 2 million, like just generally.
A lot less compared to the outside world.
Yeah. So that's literally like a single percentage.
In like a book or something.
I would probably say it's 1 million, but even if you grant 2 million, being
so
very
lose
generous.
from the numbers.
No, it's not just based off the numbers, right? It's definitely not just based off the numbers, right? So we can talk about the technology difference, because people keep on bringing this up, right? But what they don't understand is, right, the 20% that he didn't touch, right, they would still have that technology, right? That is 50 years ahead. It's not like, look, they don't lose... Listen to me. Listen to... Okay, no, they don't lose the technology, essentially, right? What they lose is their infrastructure, mostly. And now, we don't actually know if they're third world countries or not 100%, right? But what we do know is that Paradise Island was not the leading force. They were actually behind almost... I'm pretty sure it stated that they were behind every country.
100 years.
By like, 100 years or some shit like that. So they're definitely nowhere near them anyway. But even, let's say we're being generous, like, and say that like they have relative technology to each other. They shouldn't have given them 3 years of prep, right? To organize, right? Which they have. But let's say, for this argument, right, that they have relative technology somehow, even though they really shouldn't. But let's say that's the case. They're massively outnumbered population-wise, right? And now Paradise, right, has lost their walls, all of their walls. And now for years, right, 100,000... Wait, is it thousands of years? I'm gonna say hundreds, right? For hundreds of years, they've relied on the walls as their main defense mechanism. So their entire military defense is centered around them having walls, right? But now they don't have walls. They've kind of got to not just restructure and reorganize their military just like the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
But they also have to kind of like think of a new defense mechanism, right? And restructure their military defense, which is obviously gonna be like really fucking difficult. So now I can build this preponderance of evidence, right? I can say that like obviously they're probably behind the technology, but let's say they're relative, but they're massively outnumbered in population. And they also lack walls. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that they're massively outnumbered and disadvantaged here. So if they are to go to a war and fight, which Aaron kind of hints, right, they would lose.
100%. I agree.
Okay.
But I think it's also proof that there might be not a war, because
people bring this up too.
Didn't kill Armin and the rest of the Alliance. They let him live. Let them
No,
live.
yeah, those people in particular didn't. Do you know why? Because like they saw it firsthand, right, and they know that they're heroes. But not everybody sees it like this, right? Not everybody sees them in this light, and I would assume most people wouldn't see them in this light at all. Do you really think from a 500 million people they would all like think they're heroes?
No, but I think some would.
You could say a very small fraction would. That's fine, but a majority wouldn't. Ultimately, right? In this case, right, they know the opposing enemy is angry. They know this is the case, right? Because historian in a letter even talks about like what she discussed with Aaron. And the idea that the only way this conflict will end, right, is if one side annihilates the other side, so they have to go to war. And essentially, if they do, they will probably not win, if I'm being honest.
Of course.
You see my argument?
The theme, Aaron trusts his friends to find a better solution.
I don't think, like, you can say maybe last second he did, right? But in that letter, Historia kind of talks about her and, like, Aaron both agree that the only way forward, right? And the only way out of this was if one side annihilates the other side inevitably. That's just a fact. Historia said there was truth in this as well. That's why they were prepping for war at the end, and they kind of had this, like, this nationalist society now, and they were all, like, prepping for war, having these chants and stuff. And of course, you could say there might be peace talk. From what we understand, right, the other world will retaliate, and it was the only fraction that listened to him, and it was really cringe when Armin did that, like, talk no jutsu thing, right? With a small fraction that saw them as heroes, to be honest. So I think inevitably, because the thing is, right, I'm not arguing that it's impossible that Paradise Island will survive or whatever, right? All I'm arguing is Aaron contradicted himself because he said he didn't want to leave the fate of his island to chance, but that's exactly what he's done. But if anything, he's left it to an even worse chance. They don't even have Titans anymore, right? And that technology that was ahead of them apparently surpasses the Titans.
Sure, but at some point, even the rumbling wouldn't be a problem anymore, because they just can bomb them from the sky.
What are you trying to get at?
Wait, what did you say?
No, I said that their technology is more advanced than Titans generally, and now they don't even have Titans, so that's just another thing to kind of back up my point. So
I mean, this is a hard one, but just from what I see from the last pages, not off that there might be peace. That's
I
what
said
I'm
there's a
saying.
very small chance there might be, but from the way it looks like, I think I'm willing to say there's like a 90 to 95% chance that they will go to war and lose. That's what it looks like. Like I said,
I mean, if they go to war, then they lose.
Aaron said inevitably the only end to this conflict is for one side to annihilate the other side.
Yeah, but he's also trusting. He knows that if he trusts Armin with the
No, well, what Armin said, no, he didn't. What actually happened was more like Armin. Not over yet, right? Still ways we can actually get around this. Aaron was somewhat like hopeful of him, right, and said, "Oh, go save the world, whatever," right? But I think what he was really like, what Aaron was really trying to get at, is the idea that like, Armin from defeating Aaron, this devil, has become a hero more so.
And the
If that
world
makes
will
sense.
listen to him.
That the world, could listen to him or whatever. Remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about Aaron's character and him contradicting himself. So I use this point to kind of like look at Aaron's character and kind of prove that like his words were somewhat empty, meaningless, right? When he said that like, he couldn't lead his people to chance. Whatever his plan was, right, is failed, right? But that should be fucking obvious. And not just that, but he's left his people with a worse chance.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I don't think here it is a worse chance, because let's say they would put up the Historia and. They had the other plan.
No, okay, so look,
those
those plans, right, you're talking about are probably far better. Take, for example, like, the 50-year plan, right? The 50-year plan required Historia sacrificing herself and her children, but it also included a small rumbling just to kind of demonstrate their power. They could have crushed, like, Mali, or, like, even, like, Liberia or whatever, right? They could have just crushed them just to prove a point. Billions of people would have been spared, and like Hirozu said, right, it would have kept them away for 50 years, and for that 50 years, they could catch up in technology.
Like, you think that the paradise is lost, I think that the 50-year plan would.
The 50-year plan would have given them a far better chance.
Yeah, sure,
you have to at least agree with that.
Historia, he doesn't want.
Yeah, but he doesn't really care about Historia, if I'm being completely honest.
Why?
Well, I think it's made obvious, isn't it? Why?
No, he even gave her the tip that she should get pregnant, so they don't feed her to the beast titan.
Was that not a part of his plan?
That was part. No, he never wanted that Historia gets.
Okay, now we're moving on to a narrative point, right? And I think this is interesting because this is the sins of a father narrative. If you're gonna really support this narrative, right, it doesn't work because like it wasn't. There was no closure on this whole theme. Do you want to talk about like the whole like baby daddy theme?
Yeah, I mean we can talk about it.
Okay, but do you at least agree, right, that the 50-year plan were in Aaron's own interests? Because Aaron's main interests were like protecting his friends generally, but he was willing to sacrifice some of his friends, right? So if Historia is one of his friends, he may have been willing to sacrifice her, but then he would have got what he wanted, like, live out a long life he wanted with Mikasa, whatever. And also he would have like obviously protected Armin. And the 50-year plan generally was a better plan than his plan initially. Even the euthanization plan works better than his plan.
Yeah, sure, but maybe we talk about that. He could never choose another plan. When he freed Ymir took on the lead, and she decided what is going to happen.
Oh, I think that's debatable. Are you talking about when he killed his mother? That scene?
No, I'm talking when he freed Ymir. He also saw what Mikasa is going to do. I think he saw it when he kissed.
Wait, did he? Do you think he freed Ymir?
Yeah, sure. When he touched her, she started to cry, and the rumbling starts, and Siki.
I don't think. Okay, what did she want? What was her freedom?
But let me say this first. So
it seemed more like she caused a rumbling for her plan, right? So if she like achieved freedom as he touched her, then that would end the show. If that was literally his motivation, then Ymir literally has no reason to continue. No, so I don't think that is her motivation.
Freedom in a way that she doesn't have to serve the royal family anymore and can use her path power. So, okay, wait,
let me just understand this. You think her being free is what? Like, where's her freedom?
Her freedom is to pass on and to let go of this world. That's her freedom.
And did she?
Yeah, she did.
When did she?
After Mikasa kissed Eren.
Okay, so it was Mikasa who did it then, not Eren.
Yeah, but he freed Ymir in the path. Well, in
the path, so you're claiming... Okay.
Then just to obey the royal blood.
Okay, now you're claiming that she was freed in the past. Was she freed in the past, or was she freed when like Mikasa kissed Eren?
She was freed when Mikasa beheaded Eren. Right?
Okay, so it wasn't in the past. It wasn't the whole past scene.
In the paths.
Wait, okay, just make your decision. Are you saying she was freed in the paths, or she was freed when like Mikasa killed him?
Process. So let me get this straight. She was a slave in the paths
and
had to serve the royal family. When Eren touched her, he saw memories.
Where exactly is her freedom? What exactly is it?
Her final freedom is when Mikasa beheads her.
No, but like, what is it? What is her freedom? What does she want?
I guess she just wants to move on. I mean, it wasn't never said what she wants. I guess she just wants to move on.
Why did she want to move on? Why did she want to move on?
One thing, because she was in pain. I mean, that is a bit stupid. I personally call
it
Stockholm syndrome. I don't believe.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to get onto now, Stockholm syndrome. Then, so what do you think about her motivation?
I think her motivation was just. I don't really think that you can see Ymir as a human. I always saw her as more like something that was left behind of her.
So you don't think she's a human?
you know.
No, but didn't Eren state that like she wasn't a god, she wasn't like all of these crazy things, right? She was just a person.
She was just a human, but like I said,
so I don't
from
really
what we know, I don't really believe we can see Ymir as a human.
So you think what Eren said was wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was said in a moment, and it was said to this part of her that she's not a god, she's just a human. But if we would look at
that doesn't
Ymir,
really help
I don't
Eren's
think
character.
we
I
can
don't
say
think.
that she's a human. I think she's more like a ghost.
So Zeke lied when he said Eren could understand Ymir, right?
Zeke said from what he knew. But we have to know what Zeke not knows. And he just
He said
Eren
he stood there for an awfully long time.
Because he understands Ymir.
He said he spent like.
That he can't understand her really.
So time in the past is stated to be boundless, right? And he said he spent an awfully long amount of time here, right, trying to understand Ymir. So in the end, right, Zeke wasn't capable of understanding. Is that what you're claiming? And you're also claiming that Eren wasn't capable of understanding either.
Zeke wasn't able to understand her. He has a clue, I think. And Eren even says it himself that he saw a little bit, but he doesn't understand it himself either. But he says it in the chapter. Yeah,
he says he doesn't understand in the chapter. I do remember that.
Yeah.
So this ultimately does link back into, because we are talking about Eren's character and him being incapable of understanding. Don't you think that's underwhelming? Like, what's the plot relevance of that? What's the narrative relevance of him not understanding? Is that good writing? Do you think?
What I'm saying is that when Eren touches Ymir in the paths, that Ymir is going to take over.
No, but we're talking about Eren now.
Eren can't just come up with something else, right? Because he's not.
Okay, let me get this right. Okay, let me just get this right. You're saying that like Eren didn't understand her, right? And also Eren didn't know what to say, so he just said like a bunch of like words to what? Why did he say that then? Just because he couldn't think of anything? Is that what you're telling me?
No, he says that he understands something of her, but not everything.
Oh yeah, okay, whatever, but we're just talking about the words now. We're talking about the words, right? So, he said those words meaninglessly. Is that what you're telling me?
No, they're not.
Why are they not meaningless? You just said they were.
No, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure you did.
No, what I am saying is, because let's go back to... because you always say that Eren could do something else, right?
Talking about what words he said, right? You talked about about her being a person, but then you were kind of claiming that like she can't be seen as a person or human.
Well, yeah, that is my personal theory.
Okay, so but that was your whole point, though, right? Yeah. So are you yielding that point?
I personally think that she's more like a supernatural being, something like a ghost.
Okay, so then this whole Stockholm stuff doesn't apply to her.
Does it applies to the part?
Exactly. Well, yeah, it should still apply, right? She's still a person. What was the thematic reasoning behind having her like love King Fritz? What's so important about that?
I don't personally think that she could love him because she never received love herself.
No, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you the thematic relevance.
Whatever Eren sees as love is not really love.
I'm asking you about. We're talking about the theme here, right? That's why it was brought up, right? It was brought up because like this was a major theme, right? It was like this whole like idea of predeterminism within the show, right? Between slave and master. What was Isayama trying to teach us? What was the theme that he addressed when talking about this?
I think he tried to teach us anything there.
So you think it's complete? The whole Ymir plot is irrelevant then? Is that what you're saying?
Overall, yes.
All of it. So this whole lore. So let me get this right. Entire lore, right? She'd been hyped up since like really early season 4, right? And her lore was kind of like implied to be very important to the story, right? Since she's literally like the god of the fucking verse or whatever. And this lore is shown even in his stories book. Parallels with her. She's made parallels with other characters, right? Eren is connected to her in some sort of way, shape, or form, right? And you're telling me at the end of the day she wasn't even relevant to the story?
She was, but I don't think it was that big of a deal.
No, but yeah, we're talking about thematically. Like, what kind of like, how did it thematically help the show though? There must have been a reason she was used, right? Every character has an archetype, right? Unless they're like an irrelevant character, but I don't understand how you could claim that she's an irrelevant character.
What I'm trying to say the whole time is that when Eren freed her, or you can take another word, everything that happened was so Ymir could free herself.
But why? Right? Why is she an important character? What theme?
How is she an important character?
Yeah, right. You said that her freedom matters. Like Eren was trying to free her.
Yeah, because when she dies, then or when she can move on, then all the Titans are gone.
Okay, so now we're moving on to another point. So you think her only relevance was to get rid of the Titans? You don't think she thematically helped the story in any shape, way, or form?
Of course she did. I mean, the whole founding Titan.
I'm talking about thematically. I'm talking about thematically. Do you not think it helped the show at all?
I helped her. That word.
Thematic means like so. A theme is like an idea, right, within a story.
Are you guys debating like a certain what exactly?
We're debating Attack on Titan stuff.
If I'm gonna be real here, the ending was kind of
Well, I said it wasn't really good at all, to be honest. But yeah, like we were just debating certain points, like narrative points, thematic points, things like that.
Yeah, I just want to get it straight that when Eren freed Ymir in the paths, then he couldn't choose something else, right? So for example, that 50-year plan, if Eren touched Ymir in the path, or Ymir somehow got her freedom there.
Okay, do you know what? Okay, this is funny now. I might write this down because I think there's a contradiction there. So I know where this is going, but obviously I can't say.
Yeah.
So
of course, no, so he could do the 50-year plan, right?
No, look, just listen, right? So ultimately, Ymir's thematic doesn't matter. Like her theme, like the theme she brought up doesn't matter. She doesn't really add anything to the story. Like maybe like plot wise, but other than that, nothing else.
I see her more like a plot tool. Like
that's it, just a plot tool. Okay. No, that's it. Okay.
She doesn't say anything. She doesn't do much.
Well, she does have a backstory, and she was made parallels with many characters. But okay, let's say that's the case, right? Let me get this right. As a tool to free the world of Titans. Am I correct in saying that? Okay, now Eren used her as a tool to free the Titans, so he didn't. That's all he cared about. That's all he wanted to use. To use her to help him free the world of Titans. That's it. He didn't understand
that. Wasn't it her plan all along?
You're the one claiming that. Like, I'm trying to help you out here. Right?
No, what I'm saying is, but because you make something like, let's say Eren wanted really to destroy the whole world, right?
He wants Ymir to help him, like, rid the world of Titans. That's literally the only point of that.
Ymir has a completely different goal.
We're talking about Eren's goal here, because you said, like, Ymir's goal doesn't matter. That's what you told me.
No, what I'm saying that Eren, even if Eren has another goal, it's impossible for him to achieve that.
It doesn't matter if it's unachievable or whatever, right? I'm saying he needed her for his plan, though. For his plan to rid the world of Titans.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember that scene where, like, what do you think about that scene where, like, he, do you think it was him who killed his mother, or do you think it was Ymir? Because a lot of people,
I think that scene was terrible, and I think
it was terrible. Who do you think did it, Eren or Ymir? Some people think it was Ymir, some people think it was Eren.
Well, because Eren killing his mother, it adds nothing to the story.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Change anything.
I was just getting a drink. Okay, my bad.
It's just Isayama trying to shock us one last time. It's obvious.
Okay, so, no, but who do you think did it? Who do you think was responsible for Eren's mother's death?
It's hard to tell because technically Eren hasn't control in the pathway. All the
okay, but it's not really, like, I just want to know your interpretation, because, like, you know, everybody has their own interpretation when reading this.
I understand that it was Eren himself.
Okay, so you think it was Eren, that's fine. So, so Eren wants to, why does Eren want to free the world of Titans?
Well, I mean, he said it in the first episode, he wants to get rid of all the Titans.
Yes, but why? Like, what's one of the reasons he wants to do this? What's his driving motivation? It is in chapter 1.
End result, what he saw when he kissed his Taurus hand. I think that what he saw was a fair chance for everyone to live in peace.
Well, okay, in chapter 1, he literally states, right, he's driven by this desire to kill the Titans because, well, he saw his mother die, right? And this is also something talked about in the guidebooks, right? When it stated that Grisha passed on this idea of him getting revenge on the Titans because his mother was killed, right? The major point he wants to rid the world of Titans, something spoiled since the first chapter, was because his mother died. Now, if he was responsible for killing his mother, doesn't it seem like his actions were irrelevant? And do you know what the worst part of this is? Free the world of Titans. But if it was like a meaningless thing, so you're telling me he used Ymir as a tool, right? Pretty much. Just to solve.
He can't use Ymir as a tool. I'm saying that he can't.
Okay, even if he can't, he wanted to, right? So he only teamed up with Ymir, right? He knew she was capable of freeing the world of Titans, right? He used that, right, to his advantage. Rid the world of Titans, and he hated Titans because his mother was killed, and he killed his mother for that to work. Like, do you see the contradiction here?
Yeah, but that is stated that it's.
And it doesn't even help the theme. It doesn't even help the plot, right? Thematically, it doesn't even make sense. Like, what theme would that
I agree with you there, that is bullshit.
Yeah, so do you get my point? Like, you know, I'm talking about Eren, regressing as a character. And there's multiple examples of him regressing as a character as well. And also, what do you think about the whole, like, baby daddy stuff? Do you think that, like, he should have been a father or not?
No, I see no reason for that.
You see no reason for it?
I always believed what was said in that one chapter, that Historia just got pregnant, so she can save her own life.
Okay, so you believe that this whole time?
I believe that, yeah. And I always believed that Eren was more into Mikasa, or at least...
Ultimately, we're trying to, like, measure how well, like, Isayama had written the story and how well he's written the character of Eren, right? So essentially, we need to look at the themes, right? And also the narrative. There are some ways of measuring them, right? We can measure with them with, like, consistency, etc., right? But do you think it was better for Eren's character and for the story of Attack on Titan for him to be the father? Yes or no?
It was better if he is not the father.
And why is that?
I mean, why should he be the father?
Well, I think I'll explain to you, right?
Yeah.
Do you understand the thematic and theme of the sins of a father and surpassing the father? Do you understand? Do you see that as like a narrative point within Attack on Titan?
Sure.
Okay, do you want me to go over why I think it makes sense for him to be the father and why it would have helped the story? Okay, I can. So, we can talk about sins of a father, right? So even in the guidebooks, right, there's a section called sins of a father, and also Isayama has talked about this in interviews several times, saying it's literally one of the most important themes, if not the most important theme within Attack on Titan, right? This relationship between father and child, and essentially what happens here is, right, we can look at all the different fathers within Attack on Titan. I think the main ones to kind of look at are Grisha and his father. So essentially this links into the idea of freedom being I don't think it's really controversial for me to say freedom is like literally the most important theme, or one of the most important themes within Attack on Titan, right? So essentially, yeah, exactly. So Grisha's father, Dr. Jaeger, he was a doctor, right, and he was very forceful on his child, right? He's very strict. He would never really let him go out, right? He forced him to become a doctor, right, to get educated, right, and he treated his children really strictly, generally speaking. Now, this lack of freedom kind of like led to Grisha and his sister wandering out, right, seeking freedom. And essentially, what happened was his daughter died because of this, and he was never really ever able to accept this until his very old age when he was too late. So he failed as a father. And now Grisha is meant to surpass his father, and essentially he has a child, Zeke, and he fails exactly almost in the same way, right? He forces roles on his child. So both fathers force roles on their child. So Grisha forced Zeke to not just join the military, right, but to become a soldier, this child soldier almost, and burdened him with like so many like concerns and like ingrained him with nationalism, right, and all of his roles. He was forced and oppressed as well. And what did this lead to? This lack of freedom also led to like him snitching on his parent, and led to Grisha failing as a father. And now the relationship between Eren and his father Grisha also failed him as well, because he forced roles on Eren as well. He allowed him to become the Attack Titan, the founding Titan. He also told him, right, this is stated in the data book, right, that he needs to avenge his mother, right, and burdened him with this quote, right, it's called the sin of a father. And he burdened his son with all of his stuff.
I get what you're saying, basically.
Essentially what happened was Eren became this pawn, this tool, right, for humanity to kind of use. And this is kind of talked about throughout the entire series, especially season 3, the beginning of season 3, right? And so we also learn Historia was also in the exact same situation as him, right, in which was being forced by her father to inherit these roles, right? And I think like even in the manga they talk about like Historia's like oh, you would never really understand like what it feels like to have all of these burden and roles and stuff. Eren says I would understand exactly how that feels, right? And I do understand like how you feel and stuff. So both of these characters become like parallels in which they've been burdened by their parents, right? And so Isayama talks about like is that like Eren, when he fell into his abyss, right, he escaped whatever, but after that he was actually able to see himself within like Historia, right? And this struggle of parent and child, and he said this theme was very important, if not the most important theme, right? And then he drew the final panel. Do you know the draft for the final panel? You've probably seen it, right? So it's him holding a child. But what he said this moment is so important, right? So he says this, there's literally a clip of him saying this. What he says,
trolling.
You can say he's trolling, but like I'm only using like what evidence we have at our disposal right now. Otherwise, you could say literally anything is trolling. I'm making a preponderance of evidence, right? So it's a part of my evidence, right? I'm making a larger claim here. So essentially, when he was holding a child, what he said, he starts like tearing up a little bit. This is about a child surpassing his parent, father surpassing his own father. That's what's actually stated in regard to this. So I think it would have made complete narrative sense to make him the father, because then at least there, Eren was capable of surpassing his father. Otherwise, nobody in the story has really surpassed their father, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You think that makes sense? Okay. So that's my reasoning for making him a father. Why do you think that doesn't make? Do you have any refutation to that?
No,
or do you
from this standpoint, it makes sense.
Okay.
But I guess Isayama just wouldn't want to write about that. Right.
But I'm claiming here it was an important theme that he talked about, right? And it was addressed. So this is one of our main points, right? I'm saying he brought up like lots of themes similar to this, right? But he just never like had closure on them or concluded them. That's why I didn't like this ending, right? And that's why I think it doesn't make sense for him not to make him the father. Do you have any refutation to that?
I mean, I get what you're saying. It's valid.
Okay.
But I also don't see why it's not valid for Eren not to be the father.
I've literally told you it makes more sense for him to be the father. For him not to be the father literally like takes away this whole theme. There's no closure on it.
I personally don't think it makes sense between the characters.
I literally explained why this theme is like massively relevant to Eren. And him, ironically, I talked about his own family lineage and the whole theme of surpassing the father in his own lineage. I didn't even use anybody else's lineage. I think I mentioned his stories, but mainly Eren's and his parents and grandparents, etc. So I don't understand how you think it makes more sense for this theme not to be relevant, even though it's directly been stated relevant. And he brought it up, right? But he never really concluded it or never really had closure on it.
Yeah, but it can also be Historia, who is going to surpass their parents.
No, but I'm saying she is relevant to it. It's literally like stated in the guidebook that like she also had to surpass like no, it's not even about her because I talked about surpassing the father. I'm saying that like this linked to her like generally. I'm generally talking about him being a father. So I'm saying it would have made sense, right? Since we literally waited 2 years, right, in real lifetime for this pregnancy, as if it was going to be a big reveal.
Yeah,
it would thematically make sense for it to be the
so
case.
Important for the story, but it's just not.
I just explained why it's a thematic point though, so I don't understand why you're saying that.
Yeah, I get that point, but it's just not that important.
I literally explained why it was important.
Okay, so let's say Aaron is the father, then it's important for the thematic.
Yes,
But how
and it
is
helps
it
the story.
important for the story itself, for this world?
You know, thematic and narrative link into each other, right? So
Yeah.
when we measure like how good a story is, so like the narrative is like the plot, and the thematic is like the ideas within that plot that support it and make it good in the first place. Anybody can write a narrative, pretty much, right? It's writing a good narrative, and you need a thematic to do that. Literally, I can write a story. It's not fucking hard, but there needs to be themes within that story, right? Or there needs to be like a way to measure how good a story is. If you can't do that, then it's pointless. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but I just think that the whole baby thing was never written in the purpose of being that important.
I think it was like I literally gave you like tons of reasons why it was right. This whole like idea, right? This
You also
final
think
panel.
that
Yeah, I think he may have changed it, right? But essentially, like, you know, we have all of these like characters, right, making these statements like, you know, children are the future, right? We have lots of other like things foreshadowing this. Even chapter 130 kind of foreshadows this, and the whole like cycle of parent and child eating each other. There's lots of things that foreshadow this, so it was obviously relevant to the story. The whole like idea of maternity is really relevant like to the story, and it has been for a while, and we know it's relevant, right? And this is why I wanted to link it back to Ymir. It was a big plot point for Ymir as well. Ymir being pregnant, and his story was like a parallel to her, like an obvious parallel. So of course it was relevant. I think it's very difficult to claim that this theme didn't exist when I think it clearly did, and it was stated by the author to exist.
yeah, it is important, but it was just never finished.
Yes,
I guess
exactly.
it was never
But do you
supposed
see
to be
why? Okay,
finished.
but do you understand why I dislike the ending now because of this? This is one of the
totally,
reasons.
I understand that. I would be angry too, but personally, I never seem to thought that it's that important, or it has to be finished, or it has to be an
Okay,
ending
but
of
do
the
you understand
story.
now?
I always thought that some other things are more important,
What things are more important than this?
like the rumbling, like the whole thing, what is happening.
No, but we're talking about thematic here, so like what thematic purpose does rumbling have? And you could say the rumbling links into this as well. You could talk about how like there's this idea of regeneration and destruction, and you could say there's a parallel between his story giving birth while Eren is literally destroying the world. So if anything, ironically, I think the rumbling links into this.
Yeah, but does a story always have to have that theme? Like in
But how we measure how good like a fiction is, right, is through how good its narrative is, how good its like the themes are that are brought in the show, right, and also this principle of consistency. Like you may have heard like Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, kind of talk about this idea of consistency. You need it not just within like philosophy, logic, but you also need it within story as well. Because if you can't make a story consistent, right, like you might be able to do like have your character be somebody who's inconsistent, but you need to portray it in a consistent way. Because if you can't portray it in a consistent way, there's almost no way of measuring how good the story is. So of course it's relevant, right? Like Isayama has even stated that his characters are based off like archetypes, right, of other characters, meaning there is a structure to the story. He did have to plan it, right? There are right and wrong ways to write a story, right? I'm not saying like there's objective ways, but there are definitely right or wrong ways, for sure.
yeah.
And the thing is, Isayama understood this completely because, like, it's not like this was like a consistent writing style. It's he was using themes in the past, right? He was consistently writing these characters to have these archetypes, you know, to actually have these themes, to go through character development. It's not like he wasn't doing this. He was doing this. So it was a part of his writing. So yeah, I think I've proven my point.
Yeah, I understand the point.
Okay. Do you have any other contentions? Like, it's really just like the Stockholm like syndrome shit to talk about. Like maybe like we can talk about the theme of predeterminism, like slave and master.
Yeah, sure.
If you want, I think that's pretty much the only thing left. So what do you think about like the relationship between slave and master, or like relationship between Ymir and King Fritz, and also the parallel between them and apparently Mikasa and Eren? What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good thematic point? Do you think that works?
Can you tell me what parallel do you see between Mikasa, Eren, and...
Well, it's not even like me making the parallel. I think the parallel is literally stated in the actual like manga. It's stated that like the only person who could understand Ymir was Mikasa, because she was also bound by this idea of love, right? So both characters are bound by this predetermined idea of love.
The Ackerman curse is true. and that Mikasa really was cursed to Eren. So
oh, you actually... I think the opposite. I think that there was no curse and that Eren made it up, and that like it was like an excuse for him to like separate himself from Mikasa, and that in fact, right, Mikasa did actually love him. Like even Zeke brings this up in chapter 130 when he says, I think you've made this curse up, right? I think Mikasa genuinely loves you. And I think what Isayama was trying to essentially do was he was trying to tell us that like he's not saying like if it's right or wrong to have predeterminism or if things are objective or not, but he's leaving it kind of like open-ended. And where he's going with this is that like we have characters like Levi, who was bounded to like Erwin, and even like Kenny, who was an Ackerman, right? He even says everybody was drunk on something, right? So it's not just an Ackerman thing, right? It's everybody. Everybody in the story was being driven by a reason. Like, for example, like he states that some people were like drunk. This is the kind of like the analogy he uses, that everybody was drunk on something, right? So you may have been drunk literally on booze, on family, on love, on like military, on your queen, whatever. But I think this is like an established point, and I don't think he concluded this either. I think he kind of didn't have any closure on this, so it doesn't really make sense either. And that's one of my other contentions with his ending.
I mean, sure, he left a lot of open.
No, I don't mind like him having an open ending, but there needs to be closure. Like, I hope you understand the difference between closure and a closed ending, right? Because like, for example, take like there's shows like Breaking Bad, etc., right? Where like you can have like somewhat open endings, or you can have the main character die, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't like close a theme, if that makes sense. So you can have an open ending, but at the same time have closure on themes. And essentially, you want to have closure on themes. If you don't have closure on themes, then it kind of falls apart, and people don't really understand the story. Like, for example, I might not understand the moral of a story, right? Or it doesn't necessarily even have to be a moral of a story. I might just not understand what the story was about then. And you at least want it to be comprehensive for the majority of readers. So by comprehensive, I mean you want the majority of the readers to understand what happened.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that's what I mean by it. And I don't think he was capable of doing that with this theme either. Yeah, because it was like he was trying to promote Stockholm Syndrome kind of at the end. Like, he was trying to make it seem as if like Mikasa and Eren would separate, and I think that would make far more sense, because he states in I keep on bringing up the guidebooks, right? But he states so many things in the guidebooks, right? I've read pretty much all of them. He states that like he wanted Eren and Mikasa to separate, right? Because Mikasa depended on him too much, and she kind of did separate, but the issue is she didn't. She was like Ymir. Like, even when King Fritz died, she was still bound to King Fritz, right? So Mikasa was, even after Eren's death, was still somewhat bound to Eren, because she literally says right before she like kills him, right, that she can't let him go. Do you remember when Eren's like, let me go, right? And she's like, I can't do that, I'm sorry. Puts the scarf back on, cuts his head off, and even 3 years after, she's still attached to him. So I don't think there was a closure on this.
I think it's a tragedy.
Yeah, it is, really.
Yeah, so how can there be a moral in a tragedy?
What I mean by this, right? Not just is it like a tragedy, but there's no closure on his theme. Like, you can have tragedies where like there's closure on themes, right? Like Romeo and Juliet is obviously a classic example. Or you can take unconventional relationships and like romances, right? Or whatever. But that's fine, right? In this case, there was no closure on this theme. Like, there needs to, like, I explained why there needs to be closure on a theme. Open-ended, it's fine, but there needs to be at least closure on it, so it's comprehensive to the majority.
But there has been a closure between Eren and Mikasa.
I don't think there has. Like, she's still like addicted to him.
Of course she is, because she loves him. Yeah, I mean, Isayama.
No, but Isayama directly stated that he wanted this separation to be a part of the plot, and that he was writing them to move away from each other. He wrote this in the guidebooks, and the point of the guidebooks are meant to be informative and explain things, so they're just as valid as like the manga, for example. No, I would claim that, yes. It's we have two different pieces of material written by the author, right, for a purpose, to educate the audience. Well, if anything, the guidebook is more valid in this case, because we're evaluating characters, so surely the guidebook is more relevant, because the guidebook's job is to educate. So in this case, in this debate, it's more relevant. I'm not saying you should always just use the guidebook. I'm saying in this case in particular, it's meant to educate the reader, so yes, it's relevant.
But there's a difference between what Isayama is thinking should happen and what
he's not thinking it. He's writing them constantly to move away from each other.
And that's what they did. She beheaded him. She killed him.
I explained how she was still connected to him. Because if you're using that logic, right, King Fritz still died, but like Ymir was still connected to him for like 2,000 years. Death doesn't change shit. According to using like Isayama's own writing, ironically, death doesn't change if you're connected to a character or not. So I don't think that's relevant. You saying she beheaded him, ironically, using like Isayama's own logic.
No, she was able to move on, but she still loves him. She's not a robot.
No, but you just admitted that she wasn't able to move on, so I don't understand what you believe right now. Do you believe that she moved on?
Or to move on in the sense that she was able to kill him.
No, but was she able to disconnect herself from him?
No.
Okay, then that's literally my point. It's not about moving away. Separation is about connection. Like when Isayama talks about this like separation, he talks about like Mikasa's like dependency on him and like her like need to feel as if like she's connected to him. So that's literally what the point here is.
Yeah, but she doesn't have that feeling anymore.
No, but she does literally like she's still
independent now.
She's not. She literally goes to the grave and cries, and like it's made very clear by Isayama and his writing that like he wrote them to be like these tragic characters, right? That like couldn't move on essentially.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get that, but I still disagree. I just have to think how I can tell you that. I mean, I don't
understand your point.
Separate in a way that she can live without him.
From what we've seen, she's struggling to live without him. I don't think it's any evidence to suggest she's not.
I mean, she's still alive. She didn't kill herself.
Well, I don't think somebody being suicidal doesn't mean that you don't depend on somebody and like you're not depressed. Like somebody being depressed doesn't automatically mean they have to commit suicide. You do understand that, right?
Yeah, I do understand that.
Okay, so from what we've seen, it seems like she's massively upset by this.
Of course she is.
And that she isn't really moving on. So she's exactly like Ymir in the sense that like her lover is dead, but she can't really move past them. So at least we have a parallel there. That's pretty cool. But like thematically, the whole like idea of like having closure on predeterminism isn't a thing. The master relationship, right? And I don't think there's any closure on that.
Opinion, but for me, from what I see from these pages, is that she's able to live without him. And that she's still sad.
Okay, what panels prove? What panels prove like she's capable of like moving on? What panels prove this?
It is not proof, it's interpretation, how I feel
okay,
about it.
I understand, but you have to have a basis behind that. Otherwise, like, anyone can have an opinion. I could literally say anything, and that's my opinion. Like, what's your basis behind that?
So you want to give me, like, a specific chapter?
No, I want you to, like, kind of, like, you're claiming that, like, because I'm saying, from what we've seen, obviously we see her crying or near the grave and stuff. So, from what we see, right, it suggested that she still feels connected to Eren and is upset and is depressed, right? So, she couldn't really move on. But you're saying, well, that's not the case, right? So, now if you're making, like, a counterclaim, you need evidence for that, because it's still a positive claim, what you're saying.
I mean, like I said, it's two things. She can move on, and she can also be sad about it.
Okay, but can you... Okay, I'm not saying that's impossible, but I need you to prove that claim, though. That's what I'm saying. Because at least with my interpretation, you literally see her upset. So you would kind of need, like, evidence yourself to prove the contrary.
But I don't have that evidence because...
Oh, well, then you don't have it.
Isayama hasn't written that. But it says something like...
okay, so, like, what I can do here is, like... I don't want to be harsh, but if this was, like, a debate context, right? I could use something called Hitchin's Razor, where I'm like, well, if you've made a claim without evidence, then I can just dismiss it without evidence. If I was being harsh, but I won't be too harsh with you. I'm just wondering, like, what you're basing this off. Like, imagine, like, this was, like, imagine you could just accuse anyone of crime, right? You'd probably need evidence for that, I would assume, right?
I mean, it's what Eren says. So, do you think she can forget you and live happily with someone?
No, I don't think what you're saying is impossible, but you need actual proof to, or like some sort of basis behind it.
I mean, she killed him.
Yes, and I've already proven why, like, killing somebody doesn't inherently, if anything, it's implied that even killing them doesn't mean you can move past them. Just like Ymir.
Yeah, but it definitely
like,
moves that.
Well, she didn't kill him, but like, he died, and she was still unable for 2,000 years to disconnect herself from him.
Yeah,
so I don't think death changes anything.
But we know something about Mikasa.
Wait, sorry, repeat that?
We know nothing about Ymir, but we know something about Mikasa, right? We can actually talk about.
No, but they clearly made parallels here. It's literally stated that like Mikasa was the only one who could understand her for this reason. So they're actually parallels, ironically.
No, Mikasa can't understand Ymir.
I think she can. I think it's literally. I think it's state. No, this is not about them literally talking or whatever, right? This is about it being stated that she's the only one who could understand, and it's because of this relationship, this slave master relationship.
No, it's stated that.
That's literally the parallel, dude. Like I'm not. Sorry, what?
It's stated that Mikasa is the one that sets Ymir free, but it's not stated that they have any connection.
Yeah, but that is literally the connection. Eren says the whole like topic is love. She was bound, like Ymir was bound by her love. That's literally the parallel. It's literally the same example. They're parallels of each other. Do you get it?
I guess it means that love can't. That you shouldn't control yourself. Love shouldn't control you, and you shouldn't let love control you.
How is that like shown?
Well, I guess it's because...
if anything, the opposite is shown. Surely the opposite of that is shown.
Because love is the thing that controlled Ymir, and she wasn't able to let go.
And it's the same with Mikasa.
I feel like Mikasa was able to let go.
So she wasn't able to let go.
And that shows that she wasn't controlled by the love through him.
No, but I've literally proven why they're parallels, and both haven't moved past. So there still isn't a moral. There isn't a theme that was addressed. Like, did you miss my whole like argument where I said that she hasn't like moved past either? We literally talked about it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I agree with that she hasn't moved on. But
okay, then
she has moved on in some way.
What's the thematic relevance of this then? Like how what's Isayama trying to like teach us using this then? Or like what do we learn? Like what's the theme? No, it doesn't always inherently need to teach us stuff, right? Themes don't even need to teach us thing. But let me rephrase that then. Like what theme is addressed here? And we already talked about why themes are relevant. We talked about like why, you know, when measuring. I don't want to keep on repeating myself, right? But we've already established that themes are important to measure how well something is written. Otherwise, it becomes like arbitrary. So why is it a relevant theme, please? If there's no closure on it.
Well, I guess you're just looking at some other different points than I do.
No, but like, okay, literally, we always move on, right? We always like talk about a single theme, right? And you agree with me, and we move on. So this is no different. Like, are you saying you agree with me on my stance with this theme as well?
Yeah, I guess because it hasn't moved on.
Okay, so it seems like every theme I wanted to talk about and did talk about, I'm correct on, right? And that these weren't addressed. And this is my reasoning to why I didn't like the ending. Because I don't think there was any closure thematically at all. And when you're measuring how well a story is written, that's what we kind of use to measure it. So that's why I think the ending was bad. Like, I'm not saying I hate Attack on Titan now, right? It's not like I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, I think it's gone like from a 10 to a 1. I've just like lost a lot of like not respect for it, but like I don't think it's as good as I thought anymore because there wasn't a lot of closure, right? So it's a little bit arbitrary. It's really hard to measure how good it is now. And I think I'll drop it to like maybe a 7 or a 6.
Yeah.
Around there.
What you're saying, you're basically saying something gets addressed, but then it doesn't get finished.
Yeah. But it's not even that, because you can have like open endings and shit, right? But only if it makes sense, right? So, for example, if I was going to write in like an inconsistent character, you'd have to consistently show that they're inconsistent for the reader to kind of understand. So it's mainly about the reader understanding. You want to create something that's comprehensive to whoever your audience is, and I don't think it was comprehensive in the sense that like Isayama brought these themes up, right? But didn't like have closure on them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing. I think Isayama even said himself that we shouldn't understand it. Through Aaron says, "I don't understand it." I guess Isayama doesn't understand it himself.
I don't really because I don't think that's good writing either, though. Like,
yeah.
So, I think I've addressed everything. Do you have any other refutations or contentions with anything else I said in my videos?
I don't think so.
Okay, dude. Okay, I think that's it then. GG. Somebody's got like a question. Yeah.
Do y'all think it's a chance dude could save the story with the anime and possibly change it? Do y'all think it's a chance to do it?
Oh, do I think like the anime will change the manga? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, like it's a chance like that.
I don't think they're gonna change it. If I'm being honest, like Studio Mappa don't tend to like change a lot of things. They tend to stay really close to the source material, and I wouldn't even want them to change it. Like, you know, the ending is the ending. It's something you just something you gotta accept, right? Even if you take like Aaron's words, right? We just gotta move forward now, really. Ironically. So yeah, man, like it just is what it is. Like the ending was, I think, botched.
Didn't like it though, and he wanted to change.
I think Isayama did it on purpose. I think originally he was going to end it the way I thought he was going to end it, but something changed, and I want to know what.
Yeah, I feel like he changed it too.
I have a feeling, I have like a gut feeling he changed it, because like the final panel, the kid in the final panel like resembles like Historia's kid in like this chapter a little bit. I don't know if it's me making that connection, but I think they look very similar. So I think he definitely like not changed it, but he definitely had to make a decision for sure.
I didn't even understand like when it was brought up and Christian was like, "You're free." I'm just like, "Free of what?" Like I didn't even like understand it.
Yeah.
I felt like he was gonna use that scene differently. You know,
yeah, I was really disappointed. Like I've debated so many people on this now today. I think I've debated like a dozen people.
When I first read it, I was like, "It's alright." But then when I really started looking into it, looking at that and stuff, I was like, "What the hell is this end?"
You look more at the theme.
But I think that's how you measure a show, though, right?
Like, yeah.
I think that's how you measure like how good like fiction or plot is. Like,
bro,
how do you measure it?
I think if we would go and watch Godzilla and vs King Kong, then I would love that movie because it shows Godzilla fighting a giant monkey.
Okay, now that's a different point you brought up, right? So you can like I actually
didn't watch the movie. Who won?
I'm not going to tell you. But
okay.
some people hate that movie because it has not really a good story.
Okay, no, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna address that right now, right? Very easily. So you have certain like shows and TV shows, right, and fictions where like you know, the main point of them, like, oh, just to be entertaining, to have action, whatever. But Attack on Titan is not one of those shows. This is why I was like upset. I literally explained to you in our debate, right? Themes were brought up in Attack on Titan. It's not like they never existed in the first place. Isayama did talk about the relevance of these themes, right, to the story and the characters and the development, right? But then he like completely like abandoned them in the final chapter. So if in King Kong, right, the whole focus was like themes and like thematic narrative, right? And then it's not necessarily address it, but have no closure on them, then I would say it's bad. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, do you think a theme can be important for the story and not have a disclosure?
No, not closure. I think you can have a theme that's open-ended, right? Like left like openly, right? You can have like an open ending when coming to these themes, right? But you have to have closure on these themes, and I explained why. I explained because like in this case, right? You don't even have to have it like, oh, this is 100% objectively the case for like themes to end, right? However, right, when having closure on themes, it means that like people can like kind of comprehend it, right? And it becomes comprehensive to the reader. Because if it's not comprehensive to your audience like at all, then they can't measure how good the story was or understand it. And that's why I think it's obviously really important.
So
it's always been
you write
important.
a story about life. I mean, in life you have themes, but they maybe don't get the
Okay,
disclosure.
but do you know what the funniest thing is? What you brought there is a theme in itself. But this theme was never established in like Attack on Titan. It's not like the theme of Attack on Titan was that like themes don't have closure or something. That was never the case.
What if you pick someone and you write down his life? And then sure there will
Okay,
be
that might
some
but,
themes
okay,
brought
yeah,
up.
we can do that, right? But that doesn't inherently mean that person's life is a good story. That doesn't mean
But
I like
means
it.
That some themes can be brought up and not finish. And
Okay,
still a story.
but do you know what the
you
funny?
could
Okay,
maybe like
that's the
but
funny thing. That's the funny thing, right? I'm not saying you can't objectively like not like it or something, right? What I'm trying to say is like what you brought there is a theme in itself, a theme of like not having closure, but that has to be something established. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I personally just don't care that much about that as you do. So that's why I guess I could.
Okay,
love
I
the
think
story.
that's how you. I can't see like how you measure like how good the fiction is then, but if that's your opinion, sure, whatever. I think I did. I think I did the
would be
best I
massive
did, like to explain it.
disappointment because I personally am more Mikas and Aaron. So if Historia would be.
So like,
perfect, then I
are
guess
you
I would
saying
be
you're a
that
ship? Are you saying you're
as well.
are you saying you're a shipper?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay, sure, but I'm not talking about like ships. I'm just talking about
not that much, but
yeah. I'm just talking about like the story and the character development and the writing more so. If you want to ship people, I don't give a shit. That's you do what you do, you man. Like honestly, I just thought it made more sense to have Eren and Historia end up together. I thought that just made more sense. But it doesn't necessarily mean I want them to end up together, if that makes sense, or like I'm a shipper or anything.